It wasn't that long ago that luxury goods seemed to have a market immunity card. Regardless of the economic environment, consumers craved luxury and would spend on it even if that meant trading off in other categories. And then the unimaginable happened. One luxury goods company and then another started to turn in disappointing earnings. Sales fell, profits stalled. Could the luxury goods party actually be over? I'm Jane Singer and welcome back to A Seat at the Table, where we take a look at what's working, what's not, and best practices so that you can get your seat at the table. Today we're joined by retail power player Burt Flickinger III, Managing Director of Strategic Retail Group, Global Retail and CPG Consultants, and also Denise Seegal, former President and CEO of Maggiasconi Apparel Group and former Executive Director of Maggiasconi Limited, and now CEO of her own consulting firm. We'll be taking a deep dive into how luxury lost its way, what it might take to get back on track, and what today's consumer wants. We'll also be discussing growth opportunities in today's retail environment. So let's sit down with Burt and Denise and talk shop. Burt, it is fantastic to have you with us today, and Denise as well. I think that everybody's scratching their heads and wondering what's happening with brands. We never thought we would see luxury brands tank. Not all of them, but a lot of power players have had really, really bad quarters recently. And certainly even a lot of the very strong mainstream brands also have gone through some really hard times. So I'm hoping you'll be able to shed some light on what you see happening. You've both had tremendous amount of experience in the industry. Burt, perhaps we'll start with you. What's happening with luxury?
The big issue, Jane, with luxury is with the economies unbalanced in Brazil and Argentina, and as you and Denise know, very strong luxury consumers not coming to the U.S., and then obviously with it being a World Cup year, between travel, transportation, licensed sports merchandise, that took a lot of trips away from luxury retail in the respective countries, but particularly in the final 64 matches and the U.S. pitches. So that was an issue. Russia, obviously, big part of luxury spending. Their economy is the worst it's been since Gorbachev. So Russian luxury spending isn't there. We did a complete analysis of all the Middle Eastern malls for Harvey Nichols, Altair Group, and Bloomingdale's International, and found that luxury travel to the Middle East is down decisively. And then hate to say something objective about fellow Cornell board member Richard Baker, but it's almost an analogy, as you and Denise know very well from John Rothschild's book, which we have here, going to broke, which was how Robert Campo or Bob Campo from 1987 to 1990, the private equity firms bought up 25 of the top 35 luxury firms and drove them all into bankruptcy and liquidation, as you know, including Macy's, Federated, et cetera. And we're seeing Richard Baker being a real estate icon, first failing at Lord Taylor's, and then ultimately the incongruent combination in the way it was financially structured, as you and Denise know better than I do, between Saks Fifth Avenue, Bergdorf Goodman, Neiman Marcus, when it should have been the perfect market after Barney's New York filed for bankruptcy. Number of luxury boutiques cut back and filed for bankruptcy. So it's private equity really killing luxury. So the strengths, even though LVMH's stock is down 25% year to date, with Bernard Arnault's son restructuring and recreating LVMH with the Rockstar brand in Korea and Asia, as Denise pointed out to us. Korea looks like a real area and a harbinger of innovation and strength going forward. So I think LVMH is fine. Hermes, with the shortage of bags, designer women's clothes and men's ties, dropping off. Hermes is down about the same, about 25%. Kering is, still struggling. But the big issue is People's Republic of China. They're not spending in the PRC, and they're not traveling to London, Paris for Orchard Week and Golden Week to shop. And so as a result, luxury is under unprecedented pressure worldwide. And you, Denise, would have better perspective on that than I would.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I want to ask you, Denise, what do you see around that? I think that, you are talking about a lot of different global markets that are weighing on luxury's outcome. Do you see it as simply, sort of an economic situation, or do you feel that there's been a branding issue as well?
I think that the consumer priorities have shifted.
Interesting.
And I think that you start with the consumer.
Okay.
And when their priorities shift, you have to understand all of the elements. I mean, there's the political, economic situations, the geopolitics, the economic volatility. The pandemic really changed how people's lifestyles existed.
Right.
And so when we came out of the pandemic, people wanted different things. Also, I think the tariffs have affected the spending as well. So all of this combined, and then of course, social media, AI, the influencers. So we really have to start with sort of a, a white canvas and look at, luxury will always exist. And I think we're just going through, because it's sort of, the perfect storm kind of thing.
Right.
And so everyone's like, now what do we do? Well, we'll change all the creatives. So a lot of the brands that say, we'll get a new designer, we'll shift our creative direction. So it's a combination of all of these things. And I think what China is looking for and what the US is looking are different.
Yeah, interesting.
So I think you have to look at each of the markets separately.
Yeah.
Because what motivates certain markets doesn't motivate other markets. I know that logos were so important, and now not. So, I mean, China, for instance, logo was, if the product had a logo, they were buying it. So a lot of things have shifted. And I think that that's really what we have to look at.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I'm just curious, from your point of view, do you feel that in a sense luxury became overexposed and didn't have that uniqueness, that exclusivity, or do you feel that's not a factor?
I think it's a factor.
And to Denise's present point, you look at Galerie Lafayette, fine in Paris, but scores of stores around the world where they've really let them go from luxury to prestige to masstige. And that's a big issue. And one of the things that might be interesting for Denise to illuminate in an offline discussion of looking at South Korea and Seoul as the leaders of new global luxury fashion, with everything from live stream content, gaming, messaging, digital communications, entertainment, but loyalty ecosystems. And then Denise was saying, and can illuminate it now, Korea and India look like the new frontiers of luxury. And Jane, as you said so prophetically, luxury will always be there. And it starts with the consumer, but the consumer is going to be in different geoeconomic zones.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up South Korea, because it is really a luxury stronghold. It's small in terms of the number of people in the market, but in terms of the, per capita purchasing of luxury, it's, I don't know if it's the biggest, but it's certainly at the top. It's certainly becoming sort of an center of luxury.
Denise.
And also wellness. I mean, the Koreans really hit the wellness button hard, and
Right.
that they captured that trend really well.
Yeah,
And
they have.
so the experience now for luxury, it's multifaceted. And I think when we talk about some of the luxury companies like LVMH or Kering, they also embraced culture. So it's no longer, they took everything that influenced fashion and embraced it.
Mm.
The LVMH Foundation, beautiful, the art. So the creative part was extended beyond just fashion. And I think that has led to all the elements. LVMH, my hero, I have to say. The company and everything they've done from the get go. So, watching that over many, many years, they have been in touch with what's going on in the world, having their own stores, focusing on that as opposed to department stores. Gucci did the same thing. They pulled back. They said, let's just do our own stores. Let's create the vision that we have and control all of the touch points.
Right.
And I think that's what luxury helps create that special experience because it's not diluted by somebody who thinks they know what to do. And you walk into, it could be a store, a department store, and you don't get that feeling. So I think the luxury customer wants the experience. They want the specialness. They want the service that goes along with the freestanding stores.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And I think you're absolutely right that in a sense, we took away that experiential aspect when they went into wholesale.
Yeah.
And Jane, one of the things you've been a real champion of throughout your career is the women merchants and innovators and leaders have really led fashion to new heights. And as the private equity firm have had almost male monarchies running everything from fashion to retail to operations to branding to purchasing to sourcing. Most of the denouement of declining fashion, and it started with Saks and continued Barney's, Bloomingdale's, Neiman's, etc., all of whom have been clients over the years, with the almost professional prejudice against women being CEOs, CMOs, chief ops officers, chief global officers, chairs of boards, the bifurcation of women being important in a corporate structure, but not paramount in the power structure, has really led to an accelerated retail ice age in some markets for luxury fashion. And until the men get out of the way, whether it's Richard Baker, and God love him, he's a great guy, but with the exception of Liz Rodbell, who's terrific, as you guys know, it's been mostly men and no women. And one of the great stats, we work in all classes of retail, as you know, from fashion to hard goods and soft goods. The hard goods retailers will tell you 80% to 90% of all purchase decisions, whether it's apparel, accessory, designer, luxury to durables, those decisions are either influenced or made by women. So what the deuce are men doing running women luxury boutiques, department stores, and prestige department stores and making assortment and designer decisions, especially when the best designers sadly are aging out? For example, Manolo Blahnik, an average craftsperson would be able to make 6 to 8 handmade shoes a day. Now they only can do 2 or 3. Well, the men don't care because they'll outsource it globally. But for the people who really want the custom great feel and fit, women would have fixed that problem. Men are financially oriented, and what they do is catalyze failures rather than fix fashion and make fashion innovative and exciting the way you and Denise are recapping so well.
Yeah, I
One
think
of the
that's a
other
really,
things,
I think that, go ahead, Denise, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I'll add after you. Go ahead, Jane.
No, no, please.
Well, I think it's about merchants, product and merchants and designers. I mean, that's really what creates, product is always the best product always wins.
True.
And if it's appropriately priced. And in luxury, you want that excitement. And we have lost a lot of merchants due to the financial model. So,
Mm.
like department stores, they only will carry the people that can afford to be in the stores and have, they run their own, but it's very hard for emerging designers and newness to enter the store because they can't afford to.
That's a
Um,
really good point. Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about how that works?
well, I started my career at Bloomingdale's. We always had the most exciting, you know, emerging designers. I spent always a day. I was in designers as a divisional and a buyer, and did the European designers as well. Bought them and Ralph, Saint Laurent, Valentino, Ungaro, many of them. But I was always, besides those brands, looking at what's next. Who's next? And once every 2 weeks, I just met with designers. Bring me what you're doing. Let me see. And found some great great designers that we would have never met. And I'm just saying that's a long time ago, but it needs to happen still now. You've got to support emerging designers as well. I mean, I sit on the board of Parsons School of Design. There's a lot of talent, and that's the next generation.
Yeah, I think
So
that's a really good point, that it's harder for any of these designers to get exposure. I guess in some respects, you can, go online and you have that channel that you didn't have maybe, 20, 30 years ago. But you're right. It is very difficult for them to break into these stores because, as you're pointing out, the store expects you to already have budget that you can use to support, right? And, in a sense, you have to promote yourself.
I mean, LVMH is great about it. They do have, the awards for young designers. They are supportive, and some of the other
Right.
companies are as well. So, but more importantly, getting back to luxury. And we have the brands that are, we're just going through a slow period. It will come back. It always
Right.
does. Because people love
Yeah.
luxury. They love
But
beautiful product, beautiful design, but they're much more informed now. The consumer's informed
mm,
because of AI and access to all of this information. They're not just saying, "Oh, I like it." They want to find. They can find very quickly about a product, a designer, um, who's wearing the product, if they want to be with the right group of people, influencers. It's actually a very exciting time.
yeah.
But you have to understand the consumer and what they want at this point in time, and give them what they want. Uh, the shows are incredible, and then you say to yourself, "Well, let's see what real people are wearing."
And Denise, what you and Jane decoded so well is private equity got involved. It went from a luxury retail innovation, brand quality focus to a real estate focus. So now, as you and Jane both referenced, it's shop and shop. It's store within a store. It's a real estate business. It's not a retail business. And it doesn't matter whether it's London or West Edmonton in Canada or whether it's Singapore or wherever in the world. There's this certain what the bookies in business call a vig or a vigorish, which is an upfront ante. So you have to pay for the floor space, pay for sales override, pay for the fixtures, pay for the staff, and the people paying the bills for the shop and shops, the designer brands that can afford it, to Jane's point and your point, they get the primary placement. So store by store, going up to the top floor of Saks Fifth Avenue, there are fewer people shopping at Saks Fifth Avenue in the flagship than there are praying at St. Patrick's anytime during the day, during a weekday. So as a result, it's a Maginot Line or fixed fortification retail of products that don't rotate, don't have what people want. And Denise, as you and Jane said so concomitantly, commercially, and brilliantly, fashion is innovation. And when there's no change in brands, the brands, as you presently pointed out, are forced to boutiques, like LVM, great LVMH example with their Arnault family, and the boutiques are carrying the fashion business and will carry it in existing countries with better designers, better product, and carrying it in luxury strongholds now, but also, as Jane mentioned so well, to Korea, which will be the laboratory for great retail, whether it's street fashion or luxury fashion. And it's all digitized, and it's a community, and it's gaming, and it's social networking, and it's all one group moving one another up in fashion. And as you said, Denise, too, India is the next major frontier of fashion. So it'll still be strong, as you and Jane said, globally, but certain key population groups, with India having a higher population, as you know, than People's Republic of Japan, there was more luxury in Japan with Takashimaya and everybody else than there was in the People's Republic of China with 3 billion. And as you said, India has more people than China. So it's going to be a global shift, and it's going to be on the key quality and innovation and designer parameters that you pointed out so well.
The other thing that shifted was online. So, when Net-a-Porter started, I mean, that was great. People that were going into stores said, I don't have to go into the store. I'll just buy it online. I have a great assortment. And Matches did the same thing. I mean, from a couple little stores to like, wow. And, they didn't own the inventory, but they gave the window to the world, and you would receive it. You didn't have to pay the import tax and everything. It was great. It was all taken care of. It arrived, you could return it. So I think they were forerunners of shifting luxury consumers, to buying online. Farfetched, XOXO, Eeks. Yeah.
Right before Jane started, Bloomberg reported that Decker's Outdoor Uggs, where I was nominated to be on the board of directors, they have moved from 35% direct to consumer to 50% direct to consumer. And in the analysis to the board, a big part of it was digital and branding and Mavericks, big wave surfing, nothing to do with the product, but creating the brand image and halo. And we're seeing the same thing at Harvey Nicks in London. But in this age of iPhone digital creative that you see on the trains in Tokyo and Seoul, Korea, you don't see the digital imaging for fashion that can be so powerful that Decker's Outdoors started, Harvey Nicks has started, and that digital imaging, whether it's the outside the Champs-Elysees or the Rue d'Honneur, or any of the major fashion venues in the U.S., you now have more people going to the Sephora, 6 million a year on the Champs-Elysees than going to the Eiffel Tower by about 100,000. So they had to shut the Champs-Elysees down 2 hours early every night for Sephora so more people could go to the Eiffel Tower. But it's digital imaging, and it's a 360-degree experience, Denise, as you and Jane prophetically predicted, that the men in the organization are really caught in the 20th century in the Roman empires of department store and luxury retail, rather than the modern age of guerrilla streetwear to innovation, and especially, as you pointed out, to the new award-winning designers, whether it's Parsons, Cornell, FIT, RISD, or all the other schools that you and Jean speak at and are involved in.
The other thing is
Go ahead.
we also have the resale market. Luxury customers are shopping the resale market. They're selling their own things and they're saying, hey, it's okay. So that was another little cannibalization of the regular price luxury business.
Great point.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Resale has also taken a big bite out of the market, and there is a tremendous fascination, I suppose, right now, particularly with things that are, I'm not going to say it's antique, because it's not really antique, but you know what I mean. A lot of people are looking for things that are, have at least a bit of a vintage feel to it.
Right.
And Jane, that's so perfect a point to make, because in Detroit, where Hudson, before it became Dayton Hudson, dominated luxury in Detroit, vintage is now dominating luxury in Detroit, with Grosse Pointe and a lot of high income, high net worth households, but they want vintage for better tailor, better design, better fashion than what they can buy in the third and fourth generation substitutes stores after they've been bought and sold half a dozen times.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I think that what we haven't touched on yet is a quality issue. And that's something that, we hear all the time from consumers, whether it be luxury or whether it be mainstream. People talk about the fact that the quality isn't what it used to be. What do both of you see happening around that?
Denise, do you want to take it from a
Sure, I agree.
standpoint, and I'll take it from a Cornell standpoint?
I agree. It depends on the designer, the brand, price point as well. So in luxury, I do find, once you start wearing luxury clothing, which I started when I was in like high school, Courage, a long time ago. Or my first Saint Laurent blouse. Once I put it on, I was 21 years old. That was it. And still, when you wear designer clothes, the fit, the quality, a silk lined dress, it just feels different against your skin. So there's something to be said. And I've been in I've done a lot of manufacturing my entire career, but quality is key. You don't want something that's going to fall apart. Now, fast fashion, Zara to me is top of the list.
Yeah.
Hero for trend, fast fashion, and quality. I think they do an unbelievable job. So it just depends on the brand. And it depends on who's making it.
Right.
And who's supervising the supply chain.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Burt, what do you see happening?
I see the innovation in the Jeffrey Bean Student Designer Award winners setting records at Cornell every year. But like you and Denise said, Jane, it's not taking luxury fashion or traditional fashion and improving it. They're revolutionizing it. And revolutionizing means they're taking old discarded wool rugs, taking all the dye and the toxic materials out, getting to pure virgin wool and making beautiful garments. And at the same time, they're having fashion shows every month with strong competition. They connect with one of our fellow Vassar classmates at FIT and Parsons with Denise, Savannah College of Art and Design's a key contributor, as is RISD. All those deans are leading great students, whether it's accessories, whether it's jewelry, whether it's designer dresses, whether it's shoes, all the way to Korea, where we're seeing great luxury innovations in beauty and cosmetics. And it's coming from the students. And the Jeffrey Bean Fashion Awards are financed by the industry to get the great new innovative thinkers financed by LVMH and the other futuristic thinkers to build the next foundation for fashion that was stronger than what the real estate private equity people wrecked in the 80s and 90s and are wrecking again this decade. And when you see that level out and the new victories will obviously be LVMH, but it'll be a number of other retailers with whom we've discussed. The fashion will be so innovative and have such a great community and so digitized in terms of consumer communication. And as you and Denise referenced, great fit, great feel, great design, great color palettes, and a great look. That's what fashion will be, not this year, not next year, but as we get into the end of this last few years of this decade through 2030, and we move into the new decade, we'll go from denouement in fashion to a requiem to a real fashion and design and luxury renaissance led by the great designers and designing houses you and Denise have referenced so prophetically.
The one thing about quality I want to add is it's your factory base. So as price points change, and this is not so much in luxury, because the luxury brands have their core and some of them bought out. The ateliers, the little lace people, like Chanel. I mean, they want to make sure they keep that high quality. But when you go into different price points, if you change factory bases in countries, you've got to train those factories. And if you're not training them, then your quality, it takes a lot to train a factory to understand exactly the quality in some of these third world countries.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's something that a lot of brands who are trying to diversify their supply chain are facing, is they're moving away from suppliers they've worked with for a very long time. In some cases, they're going with that supplier into a new country, but in other cases, they're not. And they're finding that it is not that easy, as you're pointing out, to get everything up and running to the level that they were used to.
And Jane, to your important point, Milan, which was the headquarters worldwide of quality and hand-stitched craftsmen, with those great people passing on to a better place up above, the movement has to be more to the Asia Pacific region, Bangladesh, Sub-Saharan Africa, and as you and Denise are saying, it's training people, but you'll never get that great craftsmanship back without the teaching, training, the design, and especially the support of the universities that are repurposing old-fashioned, taking the vintage that you referenced so well, Jane, and bringing vintage back, but bringing innovation back and the highest quality design and fashion and luxury, as Denise said, that we've ever seen in history.
Jane, what the quality that you said people are concerned about quality, specifically, what are you hearing?
I think across almost not fast fashion, because people expect fast fashion to be inexpensive, and they're not.
Right.
It's not a quality purchase, but people do talk about the fact that on any brand above that, and even luxury, that it's not what it used to be. Right? If you look at pieces that you bought in either anywhere from, let's say, mid-tier on up to luxury, and compare what you have today versus what you had, let's say, 10, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Put them side by side. Yeah, it's a big difference.
And I see it because I shop all the stores, and I won't say which brand, what brand specifically, but I'm like, They're doing well. How can they? Because I have to touch the fabric. I
Right.
have to try. So not for me personally, but just to see, and you just know immediately because you know the thread count and everything else when it comes to
Yeah.
fabrications.
Yeah. So I
And
think
get
that that's a concern. Yeah, Bert, go
and
ahead.
and get the penurious people out of procurement for fashion sourcing. Exhibit A, Hermes tie business went from some of the highest in history to the worst it's been in post-war history. What was the
Mm.
difference? They shortened the tie from 7 inches in width to 6 inches in width to save money. And then you go into any of their Hermes flagships, whether it's in Paris or whether it's on Madison Avenue, and no one's buying 6 inch ties because the beautiful design, color, and craftsmanship doesn't show on a 6 inch wide tie the way it does in a 7 inch wide tie. And
Wow.
that's why Denise's point about training it and maintaining the quality and having people like Denise and Jane Singer really working with especially great women and great United Nations people of the world in terms of creativity and great institutions and great research and great fabric and sourcing and manufacturing is going to be concomitantly the code that cracks the future of luxury being better than ever, rather than letting the financial people who have failed create more failures by cutting costs and eliminating or negating innovation.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. And I think that, as you're pointing out, Bert, it's shocking when you see that happening at the level of Hermes. It isn't what you'd expect.
Yeah.
You're not talking about having to compete on price on the selling floor, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
So that free cup of espresso doesn't lead to a purchase when the product's imperfect.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Everybody's gotten a little bit greedy. And I think that at a certain point, they lose their consumer.
Right.
Jane and Denise, do you think Hermes has to sell to their no family at LVMH to really get back to the luxury heights of quality and excellence of where they were 5 to 10 years ago versus where they are now, which is unbalanced?
Denise, you go ahead.
No, I think Hermes can get there on their own. I don't think they have to sell their company. I mean, Armani got there on his own through many, many years without selling. And, I think Hermes is great. They just have to look at their internal issues and resolve them, but I don't think they should sell. I like the fact that they're on their own. Some brands are meant to be on their own.
I totally agree, Denise.
Chanel, same situation. That family has owned it for years, and they evolved. Sometimes to the better, sometimes not. But that's the core of who they are. So I'd like to see Hermes remain as its owned brand.
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily think that there's an advantage. There are sometimes an advantage, but I think from the actual brand to putting everything together in a big portfolio. Obviously, on the back end, there's advantages, economies of scale. But I oftentimes, as you're saying, feel that a lot of times the personality, those very subtle nuances, get lost when you try to pool everything together. And particularly for luxury, that's really a pity. So yeah, I would also vote for Hermes to not sell.
And a quick corollary to that, Jane and Denise, with Selfridges winning Department Store of the Year 3 years in a row for the first time, owned by the Weston family out of Canada, as you know. Do you
Right.
think it makes sense for Selfridges to go from its salient strengths in the London market and Selfridges either to go international and or Galen Weston and his family saving the fellow Canadian Richard Baker, and Selfridges buying Saks, Bloomingdale's, and Neiman Marcus to ultimately save luxury in the U.S. and the outposts of luxury those three respective leaders have in some unique markets overseas.
I think Selfridges is very unique, and I've watched them through the years. It's a very exciting store, and it wasn't many years ago. So I've watched them transform. It works in London. It works for their consumer. We've seen so many stores around the world try different markets. Some Takashimaya in New York. I love Takashimaya in New York. I loved that store. I thought it was great. Didn't work. Barney's in Japan did work.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. And now we have downtown, different, which is the store that just opened downtown. Le Printemps. Is it Le Printemps?
I think so.
And on Wall Street.
Yeah.
It's not working. It's the wrong location. So I think that when you do have a store that you want to have in a different country, I mean, we've tried it, even U.S. stores. Bloomingdale's has tried it, U.S. stores, even being Canada, have not worked.
Right.
So I'm not so sure, if it works for that customer or not. It's just a whole different experience. So to answer your question, not sure it would work.
Jane,
I agree with you. I think that basically, go ahead.
What's your worldview, Jane?
I don't think that everything was meant to scale. And I think that a lot of times what gives it its strength, as you were pointing out, Denise, with Selfridges, it's a British store and it's a London touch point. I think that going global works for 7-Eleven. I don't think that it necessarily works at a luxury level. I think that the ones where it has worked are more the exceptions, right? They're the edge cases. Mm-hmm. They're not really the rules. Yeah, sometimes it could, but it's not really a good bet. It's better off, if you want to be in the U.S. market, just buy a U.S. franchise, right? So if you were Selfridges and you want to be in the U.S., buy up Saks or something like that and run it as a U.S. Saks. Don't try to take the same thing and stick it all over the globe.
Right.
Just my opinion.
No, I agree.
Speaking of that important opinion, what do each of you think will ultimately help be the Joan of Arc to come in and save Saks, Neiman, and Bergdorf Goodman combined while they're still viable and trying to make peace with Chanel, which they
my God,
paid a penny on the dollar of hundreds of millions of dollars owed to Chanel?
Well, I think they need somebody with a tremendous amount of resources who are going to come in and buy it and run it as a standalone, not try to amalgamate it with everything else, and aren't looking at it, as you pointed out earlier, Burt, very, very accurately, as a real estate play, but someone who is a merchant, who understands the fundamentals of being a merchant and can bring that touch back to Saks or Neiman's or whichever one that they're looking at. Not try to group everything up together, which looks good on a spreadsheet, but doesn't necessarily work well on the retail selling floor.
Who do you see as merchants like Denise that has had so much success across the decades with some of her women colleagues? Who do you see the merchant to save Saks from Richard Baker and his real estate empire?
I don't know. It's a hard call.
Yeah.
It's like, because those great merchants, where are they?
Right.
But who do you see, Burt?
I see Denise Seegal, number
please.
one, with all objectivity, because we were all taught to be honest and forthright and objective. But as all three of us are saying, there really hasn't been the talent development.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Denise worked for Marvin Traub.
Yeah,
And-
Traub was great. I mean,
and
Nikki
all the other
Drexler was great for,
Yes.
Right.
Jake
Yeah.
the Gap. And it was moments, and then things shift. But there's some great merchants that they're not there anymore. So, but there has to be new people coming up. I don't think that it's not because people are, no longer doing that. There are young people that are just as talented. So I think it'll merge. There'll be someone that everything emerges.
Yes.
Like it's like Lululemon could do. Lululemon owned it, and then Alo during the pandemic emerged and just boom hit it right out of the gate. I mean, it's just I look at these different brands. Look at Quince. It's a very we're passing on the manufacturing. We're not going to take that extra markup. It's done unbelievable.
Yeah.
So there's always a brand, a designer, and there'll be merchants that hopefully we need we need some more department store leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Last question on my end. What do you, Jane and Denise, what do you think of this? For all the clients, I always thought the perfect combination was working with Carol Meyerowitz at TJX and the 7 corporations around the world, with founder Ben Camerata and Mr. Rooney before he passed from Marshalls. And what do you think of Tony Spring with Bloomingdale's business up 30% year to date, working with a person like Denise, with an up and coming male superstar who really hasn't been in the illuminated, Argyle Nelson, who's an unconventional background, was #1 in his class at West Point, a great leader, and was the turnaround person for Bloomingdale's for 15 years of all their West Coast operations, then and then Aventura in Florida, Chestnut Hill, and then the whole country, and combining a great woman with a great man, the way Carol Meyerowitz, when she left and told Ernie Herman and Ben Camerata, there are too many men and not enough good women to work with. I won't come back unless I can be a merchant, be a leader, be an innovator, develop a great group of women, and at the same time work with a man who's strong, smart. And Argyle Nelson has immense mind, like a mainframe computer, putting a great woman with a great man together to fix Saks and potentially Bergdorf's and Neiman's. What do you think about that possibility?
I think that the emerging talent, we might not even know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony's working with these people. I have to say he's done an outstanding job at Bloomingdale's.
Mm.
And I started my career at Bloomingdale's, and I live close by there. So I go in all the time, but I'm always observing, like, what's going, and the customer service is outstanding.
Yeah.
Even during Christmas when, you have lines, outstanding. And I said, and the way they've merchandised it, it's great. And I said, this is really unbelievable. I've been watching it for several years, and I that's why it's doing so well. It's just, he's done a great job.
And reinforcing your metrics, Denise and Jane, the personal shoppers like Jamie Adler can generate with their clientele that they've had for decades, $250,000 to $500,000 per customer per hour, and a few to 5 million per day. Outfit my yacht, outfit my estates, outfit my apartments. and they come back every quarter. And that's something Bloomingdale's has with this sensational service you both reference so well that the others can't mirror and match.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and service is absolutely critical. A lot of times that's being overlooked, and as you're pointing out, Denise, and you as well, Burt, that it's giving these retailers a competitive edge. It's, to some extent, it's the merchandise, of course, but also the service. It's that in-store experience.
I mean, it's just been terrific. Nordstrom's always had great experience, but Bloomingdale's now really unbelievable.
Yeah, they've really upped their game. Well, I want to thank you both for joining me here today on the seat at the table. It's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, we could continue this on for the rest of the morning, but I know you guys have other things to do. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jane.
Jane, it's been a real honor. And if you want to anniversary it and have the three of us do it once a year, we'd love to team up with you because you're one of our industry idols and oracles, and one of the most prophetic visionaries of anybody in the industry currently and going forward into the future to help lead the industry from Death Valley and the desert to the oasis and the promised land, which is quite possible going forward based on what you and Denise said so well.
Well, thank you so much, Burt. I'm very flattered. And yes, we will definitely continue the conversation.
Jane, as we call it, from the east side in Buffalo, where I grew up, next to Aretha Franklin's father's mega church, and Rick James's mom's mega church. You and Denise are such superstars. It's called, in the east side of Buffalo, just a good grasp of the obvious.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us here today on A Seat at the Table. If you'd like to see some of the other episodes, head on over to our podcast website at seat.fm. That's SEAT.fm. There's also a link here in the show notes. And if you're thinking that you'd like to be a guest on the show, you'll find information on how to apply there as well. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Jane Singer, and I will see you in the next episode.